Dark Discoveries is a podcast that dives deep into the darkest corners of history, mystery, and the downright bizarre. We discuss real events that may include graphic detail, adult themes, strong language, not suitable for all ages. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
We're here to inform, entertain, and maybe make you laugh nervously in public, but never to glorify criminals or make light of victims. Our research is thorough, but hey, we're not perfect.
We don't claim to be historians, so if we get something slightly off, blame Dustin. All opinions are our own, and sometimes even those are questionable.
Last year, this was the stunning development in a decades-old cold case. The body of Pauline Pusser was exhumed and an autopsy was performed. Strangely enough, when Pusser was murdered in 1967, investigators did not perform an autopsy, largely because of who she was married to, famed McNairy County Sheriff Buford Pusser. That cold case investigation is now complete. Chris Davis shares what was found.
Understand the difference between a poor, honest judge and a rich, dishonest one?
Perhaps nothing stands quite as tall as the persona of Sheriff Buford Pusser. In the 1973 movie Walking Tall, plus the many other adaptations that have come after.
You're all fired.
And while the real life of the McNairy County Sheriff was just as dramatic,
as sheriff, Pusser survived 7 stabbings and 8 shootings.
questions have lingered for decades about the death of his wife, Pauline.
Pauline threatened to report Buford's corruption to the TBI. And he allegedly said, if you try that, you won't live to see the light of day.
It was August 12th, 1967.
The morning in question, the sheriff claims his wife came with him on a call when they were ambushed and shot in their car, killing Pauline and badly injuring the sheriff.
The case, built largely on Buford's own statement, closed quickly. Perhaps too quickly.
But over the last 3 years, the TBI and the local district attorney have reopened this cold case and were disturbed by what they found.
Events did not occur, as stated by Buford Pusser, and that Pauline Pusser was more likely than not shot outside the vehicle and then placed inside the vehicle.
Including doubts about how the sheriff received his own gunshot wounds.
That the gunshot wound to Buford Pusser's cheek was a close contact wound, not long range, as Buford Pusser described, and likely self-inflicted.
It's led them to this haunting conclusion.
That would allow us, if he were alive today, to present an indictment to the McNairy County Grand Jury.
The uncomfortable reality is a lot of people may have grown up watching this tough-on-crime West Tennessee sheriff, or at least the version they showed in the movies, and it inspired them to go into law enforcement. But it's also crucial to remember that to the family of Pauline Pusser, this was a real-life crime and a real-life nightmare.
I loved her with all my heart, and I missed her horribly.
Griffin Mullins is Pauline's last surviving sibling. He shared this pre-recorded response to the findings.
Just thank God that I finally got a closure. I lost my other sister, and I'm just sorry that she's not here to learn.
The file's not going to give you a, he did it and this is exactly how it happened summary.
Investigators admit these findings may not fully answer all questions for all people.
No one's above the law.
But perhaps, at least in some people's minds, Buford Pusser's legacy now doesn't stand quite as tall. Chris Davis, News Channel 5.
In a rare move, the TBI is making the entire case file a public record housed at the University of Tennessee at Martin. The university says they will digitize the files so anyone can access them online, but they warn that process is going to take a bit. Meanwhile, the city of Adamsville is responding since there is a museum dedicated to remembering Buford Pusser and his legacy. The city says in part Mayor Jackie and the Board of Commissions will review these findings before taking the appropriate course of action.
Welcome back to Dark Discoveries. I'm your host, Dustin, and I'm here with
Jimbo
and Jackie.
So tonight, we're going to head down south, down to the backwoods of Tennessee, where the moonshine stills littered the land and the bootleggers and organized crime ruled the night. And home of a man who wasn't going to take this shit anymore.
He's not going to take it.
No, we ain't going to take it. When I go. All right, this is a serious topic.
Anymore.
Serious topic. That man was Buford Pusser.
That is a terrible name.
I don't know who would name their kid Buford, but
both of them. His parents deserve whatever is coming.
Wasn't that a sandwich at Hardee's, the Big Buford?
Big Buford.
Yes.
Not the Big Pusser, but the Big Buford.
Oh, God. I take it back. I don't want it.
So if this name sounds familiar, it's because his story inspired the cult film Walking Tall and about like 5 other spinoffs. It was a story about a sheriff who waged war against corruption with nothing but a giant stick or a club or a 2x4, but that was kind of Hollywoodized. That wasn't really true.
It was remade with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right?
Yeah. Which you've never watched, so... No. I don't like The Rock's acting. He sucks.
He does.
Not going to fight. Not going to argue it. But the real story of Buford Pusser is far darker and bloodier and far stranger than Hollywood ever dared to show. This isn't just a tale of a lawman. It's the story of a man who became a legend. Part hero, part outlaw.
I don't know.
Ghost.
A name like that, I don't know, man. That is a name that I will not soon forget. It is terrible.
Now you're going to go home and start looking into this. That's the point. So who was Buford Pusser? Buford Hayes Pusser was born on December 12th, 1937 in Finger, Tennessee.
Are you making this shit up, man? I mean, like,
come on. Like,
this is bad.
Okay,
Wow.
The joke episodes are over. This is a serious one. It's going to put us on the map. Come on. Let's keep it together, guys, okay? Finger, Tennessee. Like, I guess it's like Stinking Fork, Stinking Creek. Tennessee's full of those names. So's Kentucky.
Yeah.
It was in McNairy County, Tennessee. So it's kind of in that little area not far from Memphis. It's like 2 hours east of Memphis, about an hour north of Alabama. So it's kind of in that lower southwest corner of Tennessee. Like I said, just small town, rural area. He was a big kid growing up. By the time he graduated high school, he was 6'6", 250 pounds.
That is a big boy.
Of muscle. He played varsity football, varsity basketball. People who knew him back then said he was always destined for something larger, something bigger. So, he was going places. He joined the Marines after high school, but asthma would take him out of boot camp. Still, he carried himself with the military toughness. Pusser would move to Chicago in 1957, where he would work as a professional wrestler under the name Buford the Bull. That's where I was going to put my big Buford joke, but you had to go to it earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we ruined his thunder.
You took my joke away. So that should tell you kind of everything you need to know about how big, powerful, and intimidating Buford was, but they also said he was stubborn as hell. He married Pauline Mullins on December 5th, 1959, and by 1962, they had settled back in his hometown of McNairy County. Well, back in McNairy County with his wife and kids. The town they were raised in wasn't the same as he left it. He would quickly become an Adamsville police chief and a constable from 1962 to 1964 after the incumbent sheriff James Dickey was killed in an auto accident. Pusser was elected sheriff of McNairy County, Tennessee, becoming the youngest sheriff in Tennessee history. Pusser promptly began trying to eliminate the Dixie Mafia and the State Line Mob. I'm going to probably interrupt one of you guys through your part and add more about him becoming sheriff, but that's a little bit further down the road.
So the State Line Mob wasn't a formal, centralized organization like the Italian Mafia, but rather a violent, loose-knit confederation of criminal families and individuals who operated with impunity in the area where the borders of Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama meet. They were particularly active in McNairy County, Tennessee, and the surrounding region. Here's the background you need to understand. The Mississippi-Tennessee border back then was basically lawless. Bootleggers, pimps, and gamblers operated with impunity. Bars and roadhouses lined Highway 45. The organization owned and operated motels, restaurants, and clubs at the Mississippi-Tennessee state line and in the northern portion of Alcorn County, just north of Corinth, Mississippi. These establishments were centers for every form of vice and ranked in hundreds of thousands of dollars from sales of illegal moonshine, dice games, and prostitution. They were a loosely organized but deadly criminal outfit made up of local gangsters and out-of-town syndicates. They bribed law enforcement, controlled entire towns, and had no problem killing anyone who got in their way. Their criminal activities were deeply intertwined with local politics and law enforcement, with many officials either turning a blind eye or actively participating in the corruption. The State Line Mob's power was directly challenged by Buford Pusser. Pusser's relentless and often violent campaign against their operation led to numerous shootouts, beatings, and ambushes. While the mob as an entity faded over time, the figures associated with it left a lasting legacy of violence and fear in the region.
The sheriff of McNairy County, James A. Dickey, was killed in a single-car accident after investigating a previous accident at 6:15 on August 1st of 1964. The official report says that he blew a right tire front, causing his vehicle to veer off the road and down an embankment. This happened on Highway 45, just 1 mile north of the Tennessee-Mississippi state line. The circumstances around his death has been shrouded in mystery. This was just before an election, and a fun fact, because of an error on the ballots, his name was still on it, and he would have been alive had he had, and would he have been alive, he had enough votes to secure another term as sheriff. So this raised the question if Pusser had anything to do with his death or if the State Line Mafia was involved.
So it's kind of funny that you're in a small town, word travels fast, but you're still going to vote for him.
Yeah.
So that tells you either how corrupt the area was or how ill-informed the people were.
That's probably...
Or it's like, hell, he was our sheriff and he died. I'm going to vote for him anyways.
Well, against odds, Pusser won. His election was a shock to the entrenched powers, making him the youngest sheriff ever elected in McNairy County. At just 26 years old, he was a young man in a job usually reserved for older, seasoned lawmen. But that youth worked to his advantage. He campaigned on an image of energy, honesty, and brute strength, promising to drive out the criminal underworld that made McNairy County infamous. His slogan wasn't polished, but it was powerful. He was a man who would clean up the country. The politics of the election were heated. On one side, Pusser's opponent had ties to the very gambling and bootlegging interest he vowed to destroy. On the other side, ordinary citizens, farmers, townfolks, and churchgoers saw in Pusser a throwback to the kind of sheriff they read about in dime novels. A lawman who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty or his shirt bloody if it came to it. The idea of someone taking on the State Line Mob was head-on wasn't just appealing, it was inspiring. Staying true to his word, he wasted no time. Instead of relying on deputies, Pusser often led raids himself. He carried with him not just a badge, but also a 4-foot-long hickory stick, which he became famous or illegal whiskey, stills, gambling dens, and prostitution houses, started feeling the weight of Pusser's war on crime. It's said that in his first year of sheriff, he would destroy over 40 moonshine stills. Did you have me read that on purpose?
No.
That's just mean.
When you think about,
As a moonshiner.
it's crazy, the amount of money, especially in a time that, that's what you're relying on. So, but that's a big hit to the.
It's a massive hit to the industry.
The illegal economy.
And in the later years, he would continue to find and destroy hundreds more. His style was rough and tumble, almost cinematic, but it resonated with the people that had put him in the office. Becoming sheriff wasn't just a career move for Buford Pusser. It was a start of a war, a one-man campaign against organized crime, corruption, and violence that would make him a folk hero to some and a deadly enemy to others.
So one thing I seen researching was most of his deputies were former moonshiners. So are you destroying new current stills or maybe stuff that was left out there? There's just a lot with this guy that, just reading and going in, there's a lot of contradicting things that we're going to touch a little bit on, but I really implore you to do some research on your own and really dive in, because this is a fascinating topic. And as you may know, this is becoming a renewed interest in the news right now. So we're going to talk about Louise Hathcock. One of the most notorious figures in the State Line mob was Louise Hathcock. She was essentially the queen of the operation, running the Shamrock Motel and Club, a notorious roadhouse near Corinth, Mississippi. The Shamrock was more than a bar. It was the illegal hub for gambling, prostitution, and moonshine distribution.
My kind of place.
The Shamrock Hotel was a sleazy roadside place. It's located. Oh, trust me. Trust me.
Right up Jackie's place.
That.
It gets better.
Take me there.
Its location was right on the Mississippi and Tennessee line, which was crucial in its operation. It was kind of a no man's land where neither state wanted to take jurisdiction. Hathcock was tough, feared, and deeply connected in the mob. Locals described her as a cunning and ruthless, with a temper as dangerous as any man around her. She was also had the reputation of being manipulative and able to charm when she wanted, but deadly when she was crossed. So another thing that's kind of a fun fact about the Shamrock Hotel, I guess they would lure you in for a pretty good breakfast, and then
That's how we got Dustin.
Then they would rob you.
Oh,
so they would rob you. They would have with their drinks. They would get their customers drunk. They would rob them, beat them.
They'd Shanghai them.
They would break in their room and take their valuables. So it's not a place with a family as you really wanted to go. I feel bad for people that stumbled in on accident, not knowing what they were getting into. Today we call that Waffle House at 2 a.m. So you go for the food, you stay for the entertainment.
Oh yeah. I love me some Waffle House.
Oh, dude, it's a delicacy.
You know what? And I don't think I've paid the same price if I get the same thing every time I go. Ever.
The more you tip with that you don't know if she's looking at you or looking to the person next to you.
Yep.
But you charm her, and sometimes you get that waffle for free. Buford Pusser's war with the State Line mob put him directly in Hathcock's sights. On February 1st, 1966, things came to a head. Pusser received a call that Hathcock threatened a guest in her motel. And so basically, somebody said that they stole her purse. And it's kind of one of those deals we were talking about. They also did say that she was like a 0.23 or something when they
gave her the breathalyzer.
Toxicology after death. They decided that she was intoxicated, which doesn't really surprise me. You're going to do whatever the hell you want.
I was going to say with where she is and what she's doing. Yeah.
So she invited Pusser into room number 1, which was her living quarters. Allegedly, Miss Hathcock attempted to ambush and kill Sheriff Pusser, but was not successful. Pusser shot and killed Miss Hathcock that day in room number 1. Accounts vary, but the official version says Hathcock fired on Pusser with a concealed 38 caliber pistol. Pusser returned fire back, killing her. Some believe this was self-defense, while some say he shot her in the back, basically murdering her. So is this kind of one of those moments where, the lawman and the law starts to waver a little bit?
Speaking of the law, do you hear the helicopter outside?
Hopefully not.
Wow.
Did you hear it?
Yeah. So kind of what they said is, she took out of her sweater, she took, her gun, fired a shot, Pusser fell backwards on the bed, and then the bullet went into the headboard. He pulled out his gun, 4 shots, but the way they took the statement from Pusser, the way he says it is basically, I don't know if he's really admitting it, but shot her in the back, which tells you that she wasn't shooting at you.
Yeah.
And they said that the autopsy calls it bullcrap, but his deputy said it went in her back, came out her chest, underneath her breast, like where you could put a doorknob in it.
Wow.
And then...
Why would you put a doorknob there? Just
but it's one of those...
What knockers?
What knockers? Oh, thank you, Ducktail.
But when you take the account of his story, this is one of the first times that things aren't really adding up to what he says. So, like I said, we got a vigilante, or do we have, a sheriff kind of tweaking the law to what he needs it to be?
The darkest chapter of Buford's story came on August 12th, 1967. According to Pusser, his phone rang before dawn on the morning of August 12th, informing him of a disturbance on New Hope Road in McNairy County. Pusser responded, and his wife Pauline rode along. Keep in mind, Pauline never rode along with her husband while he was on duty or responding to calls. According to Pusser's original and widely publicized account, he and Pauline were responding to a disturbance call when a fast-moving car came alongside the driver's side. A barrage of gunfire from a .30 caliber carbine was unleashed, smashing into their vehicle. Pauline, who was in the passenger seat, was hit and killed instantly. Pusser, severely wounded in the jaw, lost control of the car, which crashed into an embankment.
So a real quick side note on this. From what I was seeing, these pursuers were hiding in basically a church parking lot. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. It's dark. It's a rural area, hilly mountain roads. There's no street lights. It's not been developed, so it's a lot of open land. There's not houses. So you're not going to have a lot of people hearing what's going on at this time. But like they said, they came out, didn't see any headlights, so it's pitch black. And you have somebody pursuing you in the dark. They're going to have a little bit from their taillights to follow you, but they're not going to have great vision. And then I'm just going to put this out there because we're going to talk more about this a little bit later. When the car comes up, if you're looking to respond to a call and you know it's coming up, I could see maybe his wife looking out the other way, looking out of the passenger side window, looking for something. And if somebody comes up, it would make sense that, she could get shot in the back of the head looking out that way coming from the driver's side. But when Pusser was hit, and you may talk about this here in a second, it's on, I believe, the right side of his face. I'd have to look. Just things don't add up, so it makes me question a lot.
So after the shooting, Pusser was found in his car with his wife's head in his lap. He was rushed to the hospital and underwent multiple surgeries to reconstruct his jaw and face. Now I have a question.
No, it wasn't. I was wrong.
How long was it before they got medical treatment? From the time that they got shot to the medical treatment, do we know?
I don't know, because it's probably going to be found when somebody's driving across.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
In the morning time.
You said it was...
It was like 5-ish o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. So it's probably somebody.
I don't know
after.
I don't know about your wife, but if I wake my wife up to go with me somewhere at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's not going to turn out good.
No, and that's one of those things.
I'm not good until like 8 in the morning.
That's just one of those things that just when you listen, it's not really adding up.
So his story of the ambush, which left him scarred but alive, became a cornerstone of his legend as the walking tall sheriff and was the basis for subsequent films and books about his life. The case was built primarily on his statements and was closed without any arrest, despite vowing to bring his wife's murderer to justice. He spent 18 days in the hospital before returning home and needed several more surgeries to restore his appearance. 7 years and some say around 17 surgeries, I believe. Pusser claimed he survived the attack by feigning, or basically feigning, death after being shot. He stated that the ambush was a revenge plot orchestrated by his criminal enemies from the State Line mob in response to his aggressive campaigns to shut down their illegal gambling and moonshine operations. Another thing to think about at this time, there were no homes, streetlights, and no painted center line, so if a car was following Pusser in the dark, it would be extremely hard to see him follow. All they had to use to follow was Pusser's taillights.
Sorry, I kind of got excited. I forgot I added that back in.
So I have a question. Are we coming to the conclusion that
I know what you're about to say, so I don't know if the people listening have
No.
paid attention to the news.
Well, I know, but has any gun ever been retrieved?
As far as I know, no. You have to remember, this is the sheriff of the town.
So it is recorded that there were bullets fired from outside of the car.
That's what they say, but you have to remember, this is the sheriff of the town. His wife is dead.
But wouldn't there be bullet holes in the car?
Possible, yeah, there should be. But what I say, you trust me enough, or I'm bully enough, or whatever. I can tell you this is the official story, and they're going to go with it.
Well, I'm going to throw this in
because no autopsy was done to his wife. They ran through it, and his story was, this is fact. This is what happened. This is the official report.
I want to say something, but I don't know if I should say it here or I should wait.
If you're going to give something away, I'd hold on.
All right.
If you're not going to give it away,
I got a question I want to ask.
So write it down, because we're going to, after we wrap it up, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. So I believe now is when Hollywood comes calling for Miss Jackie.
Yeah. So after his wife's death, Buford Pusser continued to serve at the McNairy County Sheriff until 1970. His time as sheriff, including the period after Pauline's death, was marked by his highly publicized campaign against organized crime, which made him a national figure. He was no longer able to serve as sheriff after 1970 due to Tennessee's term limits, which at the time prevented a person from serving more than 3 consecutive terms in that position. Pusser had served 3 terms, having been first elected in 1964. His wife's death did not directly cause him to leave office, as he was on his 3rd term when she was killed, and he finished his tenure per the law. By the 1970s, Buford Pusser was famous and infamous. He had survived assassination attempts, destroyed countless illegal stills, and stood as a symbol of old-fashioned justice. Hollywood came knocking, and in 1973, the movie Walking Tall hit theaters. It dramatized Buford's life, turning him into a pop culture icon. The film was a hit, but Buford himself had mixed feelings. He loved the attention, but hated so much of the story had been sanitized or exaggerated.
On August 12th, 1974, Buford was killed in a car crash. He had just left the McNairy County Fair, where he'd been making a public appearance. Earlier in that day, he did sign a contract with Bing Crosby Productions in Memphis to portray himself in the sequel of Walking Tall. That evening, returning home alone from the McNairy County Fair, his specially modified Chevy Corvette struck an embankment at a high speed and ejected him from the vehicle. The car caught fire and burned. Local speculation as to the cause included rumors of sabotage of the steering mechanism and the tie rod ends. The state troopers who worked the incident, Paul Irvin, later became the sheriff of McNairy County. Irvin claimed that Pusser's death was caused by drunk driving and driving without a seatbelt. Buford's daughter, Dewana Pusser, a passenger in another vehicle. She was at the fair, wanted to drive home wanted to stayed with a friend, left home shortly after Buford did. She was one of the first people to come up on the accident scene. So, I mean, here she is, she sees it happen. A little side note, no autopsy was done on Pusser's body. As sheriff, Pusser was credited with surviving 7 stabbings, 8 shootings. Pusser's memorial service was held at the Adamsville Church of Christ. Nobody was ever charged, and the official ruling of this was an accident. Buford Pusser's story doesn't end the way that he lived, or it ended the way he lived, violently and shrouded in conspiracy.
Today, Buford Pusser is remembered as both a hero and a cautionary tale. His home in Adamsville, Tennessee, has been turned into the Buford Pusser Museum, where you can see his uniforms, his famous stick, and the bullet-ridden car from the ambush that killed Pauline. Every year, fans and curious travelers descend on McNairy County for the Buford Pusser Festival. They walk the roads where shootouts happened, they tour the house, and they keep alive the legend of the sheriff. But talk to the locals long enough, and you'll hear darker stories. They say New Hope Road is haunted by Pauline, wondering where she was gunned down. Others say you can hear the roar of Buford's Corvette late at night speeding down the highway. Buford Pusser didn't just become a legend. In many ways, he became a folklore. So who was Buford Pusser really? To some, he was a fearless sheriff, the man who stood against corruption where no one else dared. To others, he was a violent man who played by his own rules, as much outlaw as lawman. But one thing is certain, Buford Pusser's story is one of the wildest in American crime history. Part true crime, part Southern Gothic, part ghost story. And maybe that's why his legend endures, because Buford Pusser reminds us of something dark, something primal, that justice and vengeance are often 2 sides of the same coin. Despite the official ruling that the crash was a result of Pusser losing control of his vehicle, there are lingering questions about the events leading up to the accident. Some have suggested foul play was involved, while others believe that Pusser may have been targeted due to his crusade against organized crime. Many believe that Pusser's death was not a mere accident, but a targeted assassination due to his relentless crusade against organized crime in the county.
One of the most persistent conspiracy theories surrounding Pusser's death is that it was orchestrated by the very criminals he was fighting against. Some even claim that the law enforcement officials were involved in a cover-up to protect the guilty parties. Despite the official ruling of an accidental death, these conspiracy theories continue to fuel interest and speculation surrounding the circumstances of Buford Pusser's ultimate demise. McNairy County Sheriff Buford Pusser is remembered as a hero who cleaned up corruption in the 1960s, but a variety of sources, including FBI documents, suggest that there may have been more to the story. Publisher Barbara Bivens says, "I don't think Buford Pusser, good Lord, was part of the solution. I thought he was part of the problem." Bivens published a book about the wild times along the state line back in the 60s. Her husband, Tommy, was considered a state liner who'd hang out in establishments that Pusser's credited with shutting down. There's another misconception. Buford Pusser did not shut down the state line, continues Bivens. Bivens says FBI documents support her claims. Documents she provided to show us to source the FBI. White has a fix with the new sheriff at Selmer, Tennessee. The new sheriff was Buford Pusser. Bivens also claimed Pusser murdered club owner Louise Hatchcock. She says this autopsy shows Hatchcock was shot by Pusser in the back. "I think Louise Hatchcock was murdered. It's quite simple," says Bivens. The claims are part of growing research. Seems somewhat outlandish, Bivens says. Buford Pusser has actually murdered his wives and shot himself to cover up the crimes. Bivens is referring to the ambush along the New Hope Road, even Pusser was critically wounded. Pusser's daughter, Duana, says the claim is ridiculous. Duana Pusser says it's hard enough when you lose your mother at 6 years old and you know that she's been murdered. You're thinking, why would someone murder your mama and blow your dad's jaw off? Half his face off? Why? Duana now defends her father's legacy. Pusser continues, it's a story to them, but to me, it's my family, and it opens up wounds like it is today. Even Pusser's own death in 1974 was controversial. His death resulted from the crash of his Corvette on Highway 64 near Adamsville. Duana Pusser, 13 at the time, arrived minutes later. Pusser said, I got to him and I was screaming, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. She turned over only to hear his last words, and he said to me, what I want to think is, Duana, Duana, and then he was gone. Officially, it was ruled a single-car accident. I do believe he was murdered. I'll always believe that he was murdered, continued Pusser.
And I know a lot of people discredit Bivens, but she was pretty crucial in what's happened recently on getting them to exhume Paula's body and really pushing in that, there was more to the story, seeing that evidence just didn't link up. But kind of what I've took from knowing the story for the last, 20 years or so, that there was always some kind of speculation that something happened that wasn't in the record. So I know some people don't want to give people credit for, just pointing the finger, and I probably wouldn't normally do this either, but given the circumstances now, I think that's a really big piece in where we're at today. So I'll kind of take over this one for you a little bit. So some of the theories around Pusser's death, because, like I said, was surrounded by conspiracy theories, was a Dixie Mafia hit. Pusser had spent several years battering the State Line mob and the Dixie Mafia, which was, kind of ruling the land. Phoenix City, which was the Alabama-Georgia line. It's something we're going to cover at some point because that was lawless. That was a really rough city, one of the worst in the country. They kind of eradicated that, and this is kind of where everybody landed. Many believe the crash was not an accident, but rather a carefully planned assassination where, something in the car steering and tie rods were tampered with. He did survive multiple assassinations attempts, including the ambush that killed his wife, allegedly in 1967. And then the idea of the mob finally got him was a pretty popular theory. Pusser always claimed he knew who killed his wife, but the suspects either died mysteriously, vanished, or were never successfully prosecuted. Some speculate the same people or their allies set him up years later to tie up some loose ends. And then you have foul play by law enforcement. It suggests that within the law enforcement and the political circles kind of covered this up. Pusser was a larger-than-life character who was also controversial. Some admired his tough law enforcement style. Others thought he was reckless and attention-hungry. And there were whispers that people in power saw him as a liability. The alcohol cover-up, the official report stated alcohol may have been a factor, but his friends and family dispute this, saying that he hadn't been drinking heavily that night. And then conspiracy-minded folks like to think that the alcohol involvement was a cover-up to make the accident sound more plausible. And then they have the Hollywood curse. 1 month before his death, Pusser had signed on with Bing Crosby Productions to play himself in part 2. Earlier that day, he was kind of finalizing all that. He died before filming started, which fueled talks that the Dixie Mafia or others made sure he never lived long enough to cash in on his fame. Some locals whispered that Hollywood money and his plans to run for political office may have made him a bigger target. So I thought I covered this in there, but I may have not kept it in my notes as I was doing it. They really wanted to film the first Walking Tall movie in McNairy County. The county was like, no, we don't want nothing to do with this. We don't need national attention on our problem, or our problem on national attention. So when the second movie was in production, they did their damnedest to get them to film it in McNairy County because they seen the impact it had in the surrounding counties that where they did film stuff oh man, this could be good for the economy. But they're like, you didn't work with us the first time, so we're not gonna work with you now. So, Friday was August 30th, and I think this is when all this stuff started to come out in the news. And as soon as I seen it, I was like, I am not surprised one bit. But this stuff started back in 2022. The author we talked about, Bevins, or I'm going to mess it up, was like, hey, let's exhume a body to an autopsy, and really pushing that things didn't add up. The evidence is in your lap. You can see it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that something is going on. So on January 5th, 2024, the TBI, or the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, publicized that the investigation of the murder of Pauline Pusser remained an active case and requested tips from the public. Following several tips, the TBI confirmed an autopsy had not been performed on Pauline Pusser's remains during the course of the original investigation in 1967. You have a husband that's a sheriff. It's easy she was murdered. Let's move on. The quicker that it's done, the better. In a written statement, the TBI statement says, with the support of Pauline's family and in constellation with the 25th Judicial District Attorney General Mark Davidson, the TBI requested the exhumation an attempt to answer the critical questions that provide the critical information that may assist in identifying the person or persons responsible for Pauline Pusser's death. Her remains were exhumed on February 8th, 2024, and returned on or around April 7th, 2024. On August 29th, 2025, the TBI and the District Attorney General of the 25th Judicial District announced that were he alive, there would be probable cause to charge Buford Pusser with the death of his wife, Pauline. Investigators announced that Pauline's wounds were not consistent with Pusser's story, but rather were consistent with being shot at close range, and that Pauline's nose had been broken shortly before her death, and the blood on Pusser's car also contradicted his narrative. They also found that Pusser's own wound was most likely self-inflicted. In the news, it may confirm a lot of speculation, but it still leaves a lot of questions. First, why would he kill his wife? Was it a planned murder-suicide? So let's kind of talk about it. So the first thing that hops out at me when we're talking about this is they said that he shot her outside the car, and then you'd have to put her in and then, do whatever. I know her brother made a statement recently after all this came out that he wasn't surprised and that she kept it quiet, but they may have been going through some problems. Not sure if the pressures of law enforcement, the pressures of, maybe a marriage dissolving in that process and that time, if that was a catalyst to make some bad decisions. I don't know. It's purely speculation. But also another thing to me that stands out with this is I lost my thought. So Jimbo, ask your question. All right. I was going somewhere, but I lost it.
I got a couple of observations. Number one, the sheriff before him, the James Dickey, they said that his car accident was
right front tire blew down an embankment.
Blew. Now, do they think that Buford shot out the tire or had somebody mess with the? Is this where we're going with this? Is that what they're saying?
It seems a little mysterious for the time going on, and to just blow a tire unless you're at a high rate of speed doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
So I think that's, like I said, I think there's going to be more stuff in the coming weeks and months that's going to come out.
My thought number two is, where did the gun go? If it's a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the jaw, as this is claiming, we go back and we look at the story of, what was her name? Louise?
Yes.
Hathcock or whatever. He shot her with a 30.
She had a 38. I think that said he had a 41 caliber.
Right. So the caliber of gun that was shot in this was a 30 caliber, I think it said.
Yeah, 30 from like a carbine rifle.
You think if he shot himself, the gun would still be there because he's not going to. What's he going to do with the gun? Right.
He's the sheriff, though. That's
no. But what I'm saying, you would still find a gun. Whoever came on there, the paramedics or whatever, would say this is the type.
Yeah.
Where's the gun?
And you see it. You see a gun in there. Well, he's a cop, so he has a gun. He's got a rifle. So I think there's a lot of corruption still within where I was coming at with this. This is what I was meaning. Talking about their marriage possibly dissolving. You have a guy that's hard on crime. He's an asshole. He's a prick. To these guys, he's going to use violence and force. Is it easy to turn off that mentality when you go home? Like I go to work, I put on a show. Like I'm at work, I'm here to do my job. I'm leaving it at the door and I'm going home. But this assassination attempts and always have to look over your shoulder. Can he turn that off? Or does that spew over home? And is that where everything starts to go into where the actions of that day came that way?
All right. Do we know if the caliber that was used to shoot his wife, the wound from her, was it the same kind of caliber that was shot?
I believe a 30.
Where he was shot in the jaw. Was it the same?
I believe it was still a 30 because they said it was a carbine's what they used.
My thought goes two different ways here too. If they said they had enough to convict him, right, or bring him in for charges, could it still have been a shootout and then he just put her out of her misery because she was suffering? One. Two,
I think the initial shot was killed her instantly.
Well, if I'm Buford Pusser, I'm not shooting myself in the jaw. I'm sorry.
People do.
But what I'm saying is, how can you shoot yourself in the jaw and not take the risk of killing yourself?
My thought is,
can't.
I think it was it a murder-suicide attempt?
Well, my thought is, did she do it? Trying to get the gun away from him.
It could have. I mean, it could have.
Self-defense.
That's the thing. But she was shot in the back of the head.
Yeah.
So,
but if she was going to shoot him and she tried to get out of the car and he shoots her in the back of the head.
Yeah.
But then again, they said that the blood was found on the outside of the car.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff is, like I said, you could look at it and say, okay, they're looking for this disturbance call. He's driving. He's probably paying attention to the left side of the road. She's paying attention to the right. But she never went with him. So it's not plausible, but that could open up the back of her head. Close range, carbines are short. I mean, it's probably, 2 foot, 24 inches or so. But it's one of those, there's so many unanswered questions. And this is where I really hope that the listeners say, this is interesting. I want to learn more. I really want to hit every single thing, but it would take us 6 months to come up with a really good 2-3 part system on this. So I hope people go and look, and you can find some autopsy photos, I guess. You can find some crime scene, and they're gruesome. I've not dove down in there because I'm going to wait to see what comes out, and then I'm going to look at it because I'm trying to stay as unbiased as I can. But when you see things and you're reading, and there's so many things contradicting, and then the unknown.
Well, and here's the other thing: doing something that early in the morning, you run the risk of waking people up.
But there's nobody around.
There's
nobody around.
There's a church and there's nothing else on that road.
But I don't know.
Gunshots do
I would
echo.
think that if you were going to do stuff, it would be.
You would do it early in the morning or late at night. One or the other.
I mean, I would think most people would do it late at night.
So, but not knowing when he actually did it, and you're in the ditch and you survive. Well, it was this time.
Yeah.
So
do we know if the disturbance that they were actually going to was a real disturbance? Is there any phone records or anything?
I'm not sure.
That his wife never came with him.
That's
she was there for that
too.
one time.
So he claims early, getting beat up by Hathcock's husband at the time before he died, that he was beat up and got like 130 stitches. And this was before he became a professional wrestler. And the photos you see of him back then, you don't see none of that. So there's just a lot that you can't, it's speculation. And like I said, when they took the official statement, probably because he was a bully, and this is how it is, and I'm telling you this is what happened, and you have your people in there that are going to follow you to the edge of the earth for whatever deal you made with them, if they were ex-moonshiners or whatever, they're going to say, yep, that's the story, we're moving on. Because when you have this guy that's doing this and becoming such a big polarizing member of the community, you see that they're out there doing their, trying to fix the town, and you maybe don't look at his shortcomings. And then when his wife's dead, man, we found her dead, and she's laying in his lap. This is sad. He just lost his wife. So you kind of overlook those details, or you purposely overlook those details.
It's really weird that she's laying in his lap too. If he shot his jaw out,
Yeah.
And
I mean, if I'm going to,
but you do go down an embankment,
this,
so it's going to probably, depending on how you hit, it's going to probably throw her.
But if I'm going to fake this, I'm
she-
not shooting myself in the jaw, Dustin. I'm going to shoot myself in the arm or something to give my chance a better chance of survival, or the leg.
Unless you were trying to kill yourself.
Unless he hired somebody to shoot her and they just shot the whole car and accidentally hit him too.
Yeah, it was like I said, I said it wrong. It was on the left side, so that would make sense there. So at least that was planned right. But was it? And if you're going to do it in a car, I would think you would go towards your right side because it's easier to maneuver that side versus the left side, unless something happened. You shot her, you went to do something, it got you on accident.
Ricocheted or something?
You try to stage a scene to be okay.
Was he right or left-handed?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, that could play a part too.
It can. Like I said, I'm just
Which
thinking.
one's his gun hand?
I'm thinking in the car, though, the left side of the car by the door, it's not going to be the most efficient way to do anything.
Right, but I don't see, but then again, they said there's blood outside the car, so I don't see him shooting himself inside the car, but if he shot himself outside the car and got in and then drove the car off the cliff, you're taking a shot there that you're going to do more damage than...
And for all you know, it could have been, he had the rifle in the car after it, and it went off. I mean, anything's possible. Like I said, that's the thing is, two people, well, one person knows exactly what happened because the other one was ambushed.
Right.
And, we're not going to know, but I hope there's enough evidence, and they took a couple years to look at this. Hopefully they have a lot more information coming out to wrap this up so we know. What I feel bad for is you have the daughter that survived it.
Mm-hmm.
And she had to deal with the loss of her mother, the loss of her father, and was there, like I said, 10, 15 minutes after it happened. And then now here we are.
Bring it all back up again.
You're bringing it all back up, and now did my dad kill my mom?
Right.
And you thought you mourned the loss of both of them, and now that wound just gets tore back open. That, and it doesn't really affect anybody but the immediate family. And the family wants closure. It's just don't know. I mean, this far out, do you really want closure?
Right.
And that's the thing is you have a person that has to deal with this. But then you get the interview of Pauline's brother, and it's like, not surprised. I mean, it's when you're not there, you don't know all the warning signs to see, and you never know what people are thinking. You get people in a bad spot financially, they'll take their life. Murder, suicide. It happens. And it's, I really hope that people, a lot of the people listen to this, that if they need help, they take a chance and reach out for help, get with a suicide hotline, get with somebody that can help you, because it's not the end of the world. A divorce, financial problems, we all go through our issues. And I really hurt for those people who think that's the way to fix it, because, sometimes you only get beat up so much. And it could be the case with him that you're looking over your back constantly. You're probably not going to walk out of this alive. You're waging war
against the mafia,
against a mob, and the Dixie Mafia, and those guys were ruthless. I'm going to hopefully cover a story, and I hope people look into this too, of Billy Sunday Burt.
Mm-hmm.
Wrecked a car, heavy in the Dixie Mafia. The insurance agent refused to pay the claim because he only had the car for like a week or two. Blew the building up, and then they find him dead. Wow. Like, you cross these people.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit about your life. You're taking their money, their way of life, their people, their friends. They're not going to take it sitting down. And you're never going to eradicate corruption all the way. You always have that in the back of your mind. And was it too much? Did you finally get to the point that you break? And I feel bad for calling him a piece of crap, getting too crazy. But like, if that's true, it sucks because you have a town that celebrates him. And
I wonder if they still will.
I'm eager to see that.
Right.
Looking at when the dates are, it's not overly far when I go on vacation in October to go detour up through Mississippi on our way back from Texas, because we're going through Mississippi and making a little detour on the way home and kind of seeing if the museum's still open, if, some of that for me, I like to
see the area,
take those same steps, take that stretch of road to put yourself where something in history happened that you can put a footprint on it. Is that going to be the same in 2 months, in 6 months, or 2 years?
Well, we'll keep our eyes on the news, and then if something else comes along with a lot more information, we'll do a follow-up episode.
Devin, do a follow-up, and I'm going to try to blow up the social media on some of this stuff, because it's how often does a case like this get reopened during your lifetime that can be this big that you thought you knew? Oh, hey, here's the JFK files. Like, here's the unredacted files. This is the definitive answer to what happened. You don't get that very often. And in the past, we've had some serial killers, be caught, but they're not well publicized, at least. But evidence comes out, and when you can finally solve it, that's just as interesting as everything else out there. And if anything, we want to take Pauline, have people, hear her story, look into her a little bit more, because she didn't deserve what happened. No matter what happens in a relationship, that never is acceptable or the answer.
Well, and the daughter too.
Yeah. And
she's going to need a lot of support.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, her, keeping her mom's legacy alive more than ever is going to be, I think, important for her, but she's got to get through this again. And that's what sucks.
Right. So, Jackie, do you have this episode's missing child?
Somewhere.
All right. Dustin, do you want to go over all our social medias and where they can find one of these outstanding Dark Discovery podcast t-shirts?
So find our link tree on our Facebook
Would
group.
you explain
our
what
page.
Linktree is?
Linktree just gives you pretty much one link to where it gives you to everything Dark Discoveries. That's the merch store, our Twitter. I don't think we have
X.
Twitter. There may be one. I don't play with it because I don't really like Twitter. Because
X.
I don't care. I still call it Twitter. Twitter, twatter, pitter, patter, whatever. TikTok, Dark Discoveries podcast, I believe. Find our logo. That's always going to be us. Instagram, we're going to hopefully get better at that. But Facebook and TikTok is where you can find us the most at Dark Discoveries podcast. Questions, comments, concerns, darkdiscoveriespod@gmail.com. And don't forget to leave us a like, comment, review.
Download the episodes, because that really helps.
Yep. Download, listen.
Download.
We're out here having fun. It takes a lot of time to put this stuff together. And this was one of those that from Friday till Tuesday, it's like, we got to put something together because this is groundbreaking stuff and it's going to be on the list to do. So let's just push it to the front.
Right. So did we stall long enough for you, Jackie?
You did. Thank you so much. You guys are super helpful. Okay, so this week we are looking for Kayron Rollins, missing case number M198459198, missing since May 15th of 2025, out of Willingham, Detroit, 16 years old, male. And any information, you can contact the police department at 302-654-5151. I will have all of his pictures and our information up on our social media.
All right. And you've been listening to Dark Discoveries, where the deeper you dive,
the darker it gets.